What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant of First Down Training, and welcome back to our 5th episode of our First Down Training show. Today we're going to be talking about some of the best high school players that I faced when I was playing high school football, guys that are now playing professional ball, guys that were some of the best in college. Then we're going to be going over some current events with you guys. We're going to be talking about the best wide receiver in the NFL draft that I believe, and then we're going to be talking about the recent accusations against Justin Tucker. And at the very end, we're going to be answering some of your guys' questions that you left on our last episode. Let's get started. All right, so we're going to be going over, honestly, just like some of the best guys that I played against, played with, just some of the dudes that like most of you have probably seen playing on Sundays, a lot of you have seen playing on Saturdays, and let's tell you some stories about it. So first player is, this guy was like freak of nature, like absolutely insane, Kayvon Thibodeau. So he was like defensive end at Oaks Christian. Oaks Christian's a school up in like, I want to say Westlake, California, so a little bit above like Los Angeles. And I went to a high school called Los Alamitos High School, which is not, we were probably one of the better public schools at the time. I would say the best public school was probably Long Beach Poly, but we were probably second best. And so we played Oaks Christian in 7-on-7. We played Oaks Christian during the season. And I first saw Kayvon Thibodeau when he was a tight end. So we all know him as a defensive end who played for the Giants and dominated in college. But I remember he was a tight end in 7-on-7, and the dude was like a freshman, and he was like 6 foot, just like 4, just solid. Couldn't run routes to save his life, but they would just throw the ball up to the guy, and he was absolutely insane at the tight end position. And then within 1 year, he just started blowing up. Offer from here, offer from there, playing defensive end at Oaks Christian, and then we ultimately played them. And that guy was one of the scariest players like I've ever come across. Like as a quarterback and having that guy rushing you, you don't even want to run a play to his side. You don't even want to take a 3-step drop. You just want to get the ball out of your hands. So Kayvon Thibodeau is probably the scariest player that I played against. And obviously goes to show, high round draft pick. Hasn't had a ton of success in the NFL, but guys, it's the NFL. Like it's not anybody who can make the team. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Like people will say like, oh, well, that guy's trash or this guy's that. Like guys, you got to understand that if you could even make the 50-man roster or whatever it is, like you're a really good football player. You're the top, literally the top 0.0001% of the entire country. So even if you make the team, you're legit. If you start, you are legit. If you were top 20 in the league, you are absolutely insane. So he hasn't had a ton of success in the NFL. Hopefully that could turn around because he was never one of those dudes that was super arrogant playing against him. He was just a quiet guy about his business, but like absolute killer. So that was extremely scary. So next player that I played against, and most of you new receivers watching this obviously know who this is, Amon-Ra St. Brown. So best wide receiver on the Lions, freaking $100 million contract. Like Amon-Ra, so my freshman year of high school, I went to Servite High School, which is a school in Anaheim. It's a private school, and I played quarterback there. And Amon-Ra was actually a running back. So he was a running back. He was my running back. We ran a lot of like zone read. Like we were kind of in like a wing T system too. They kind of built the whole offense around him. I would say it's part of the reason why I transferred out of that school. But absolute stuff. Like we were in the same lifting group, and that dude was like as a freshman repping 225 on bench. Like we're 14 years old. He wasn't a holdback either. Like in Southern California, it's real popular to have your like if you're an 8th grade kid, they'll have you repeat the 8th grade for like development purposes, and a lot of kids will go to these like academy schools where they literally will just like do homework or do schoolwork for like 2 hours and then train for 4 hours. Like it's kind of a good deal. Like I don't know, I have my opinions about that. It's for a different episode. But anyways, he didn't do any of that. He was a true 14-year-old freshman. Obviously, you guys have all probably seen his dad on, you know, like NFL films. He'll post a clip. You guys probably saw it in the wide receiver documentary. And his dad is that way. His dad is extremely opinionated. His dad is extremely high intensity, but if you're on his good side and you got his son the ball or you handed his son the ball off, he liked you. So that was kind of the way it was. But we were in the same lifting group, and dude, 225 for reps on bench, just a freak of nature, right? So he ended up transferring out of Servite to Mater Dei High School. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Mater Dei, best team in the country, literally every single year. And we actually played against him in 7-on-7. Now, I was never a DB, right? Quarterback receiver is what I played. And but my best friend was a DB. And to this day, and if you guys have been to our camps, he's Coach Dylan, he's like the speed coach at our camps. He had to guard him. And they're literally, guys, like, you could play off coverage, you could play zone coverage. He was a 5-star in high school, and like he was probably when it really hit me that like that's a 5-star player. Like that's what it's supposed to look like. You know what I mean? Like you're in high school where I went was a public school, like I mentioned, and you know we have good receivers, we have good athletes. You know, and I consider myself like a pretty decent athlete, but that's a whole nother level. So like when you guys see on social media, like this kid's a 5-star, this kid's a 4-star, and everybody just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, like it's so common. We're so like, I guess you could say like immune to it, if you will. But he was a true and true 5-star. Could not guard him off the line. Top of the route smooth, caught every single ball, just ran past our defense. And I remember our DB coach looking at Dylan and was like, yeah, he's trained to do that. There's really nothing he could do. Like you can't even coach against it. So that was my experience playing with Amon-Ra and against Amon-Ra. Great dude, not arrogant at all. Probably one of the most humble people that I've ever played football with. And he had every single reason to be arrogant. Not an arrogant bone in that guy's body. He's a great dude. Still would consider him a friend of mine, but yeah, he's a great guy. So now, number 3. If you guys have not seen this dude's high school highlight tape, Brendan Radley Hiles, they call him Bookie, was the most like my first ever like high school pass, and maybe not first one, but probably like 3rd or 4th high school pass, was a pick 6 to this guy. And I had played 7-on-7 with him the year prior. So he ended up going to Bishop Gorman High School. He grew up in California, I want to say like Inglewood, and he was just like a youth, like just a prodigy. Like the dude, like the picture that you guys just saw on the screen of him like with a full beard, like that's how he looked as an 8th grader. The dude like aged, he was like a 40-year-old man when he was in 8th grade. And I remember playing 7-on-7 with him, and he was DB. He was not even a receiver. We'd have a play call where it'd be like all slants or something like that. And I still remember this because again, this is kind of like as an 8th grader, you never really are like aware of what the talent pool is. Like if you've never been in it, right? So like for me, I grew up playing like, you know, like local Pop Warner ball, did not play like high level, like IE Ducks, OC Buckeyes, all these travel teams that a lot of people play on nowadays. He did. And so I remember we were doing 7-on-7, and it was my first exposure to 7-on-7, first exposure to other talent pools outside of my little area where I grew up in. And absolutely insane. Like it was kind of like a wake up, like, okay, this is like, and it's good to see that because it makes yourself better. Like it makes you want to like put in more effort, put in more work, because now you got, okay, like that's the bar. I thought I was really good. No, I need to get to this place. So if you guys are an athlete watching this, like you should always want to train with better competition. You never want to be the best guy at the training session. You want to be honestly the worst guy because it's only going to elevate your game. But anyways, he was a dude, we'd be able to play like all slants, he'd be running like a dig or something like that, and he would just pull me aside and be like, hey, I'm gonna run a fade. And it would be cover 4, like 2 deep safeties, corners are off. He would just run past everybody and you just throw him the ball. And the coaches didn't even care. They were just like, oh, well, that's what he does. And so he could have gone to any high school that he wanted to. Ended up going to Bishop Gorman. Obviously, Bishop Gorman, if you're familiar with like Vegas football, they're the best team out there. They get everybody, they recruit everybody. It's a private school. And so we played them my first game when I was at Servite. And again, pick 6, but this dude would crack people. Like one of the biggest hitters I literally have ever seen. Like, so if you watch his high school highlights and his college highlights, like it's very, very entertaining. I can promise you that. Okay. So now, next player we're getting to is going to be Jack Jones. All right. So Jack Jones, not a lot of people know you. You call him Jack Jack if you grew up where I lived. He played for Long Beach Poly. He was a DB. I don't have any stories about throwing any interceptions to him because I never threw to his side. This guy was probably one of the smoothest DBs I've ever seen. Like I remember one time, a good example of this, like to help you guys understand, is like I went to a Rams football game when they had Jalen Ramsey, right? And obviously Jalen Ramsey is one of the best DBs, probably, I would arguably say ever. And the DBs were going through like warm-up drills, and they're all NFL DBs, guys. They're all fast, athletic, whatever. Jalen Ramsey was like head and shoulders above everybody. Like that's the difference between like elite and just like regular NFL player. They're all elite players, but there's a different level. And Jack Jones was like that in high school, man. Like the dude would chirp and chirp and chirp. Probably one of the most talkative, like dude was just a complete ass. Like, but what are you gonna say? Like nobody could catch a pass on him. Nobody could do anything on that guy. So he was a real legit talent and a guy that I never threw to, but I highly, highly recommend you check out his film. And obviously he played for the Oakland Raiders. Everybody saw a great pick 6 that he made. And that was pretty cool because he's battled some adversity. He, I think, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but like he I'm pretty sure he was at USC and got kicked out of USC for like burglary. I don't know all the details of it, so I'm not going to speak on it, but I know he battled some stuff and then had to go to a different college, and then so it's pretty cool to see where he's at and turn his life around. But solid DB, one of the best DBs I have ever seen, okay? So now, this is a player that I feel like maybe not a lot of people are familiar with, definitely if you grew up where I grew up, but he played at Oregon and then he transferred to USC when they got Lincoln Riley, but that's Travis Dye. Now, Travis Dye went to Norco High School, and Norco High School was a team in my senior year of high school. That was our first round playoff game. We were the favorites. We won our league. I think we only lost maybe 2 or 3 games that season. Norco had like an average season. They were maybe like, I don't know, like 6-5, maybe like 7-4, something like that, right? So they weren't like this like monster team, but Travis Dye, like everybody loves, like, you know, to wear the sleeves and the cleats and, you know, all the flashy gear and all that. And that's fine. If you wear that, that's fine. I'm not trying to say anything by that. I was one of those guys. I was one of the tights guys, sleeve, towel, all that. This dude would wear pads, helmet, pants, mid-white socks, no sleeves, no tights, no nothing. You look at him and you're like, that's a JV player. Like, there's no way. Dude rushed for probably 400 yards and had like at least 5 or 6 touchdowns. Like the final score of the game, like offensively, there's nothing I could do because we were scoring points. I think the final score was like 56-42. Like it was, so we were putting up points. I played great. That was one of the best games of my high school career. But when they're putting up that kind of numbers and they have a running back like that, dude, like I really don't think he got touched one time. If he got into the secondary, it was a touchdown, no matter where they were. So Travis Dye, legit player. Highly recommend you check out his high school highlights because you'll probably see our game on there. But yeah, very, very, very solid player. So yeah, guys, so now, fellas, we're going to get into some current events next, but also if you guys are a quarterback or wide receiver watching this video, we're going to be traveling out to 11 more states this offseason for 2-day long QB and wide receiver training camps. So next up on our camp tour, guys, we're coming out to Austin, Texas, but that camp is completely sold out. We don't have any more available spots, and the rest of these camps that I'm going to list off, you guys, will sell out probably by March 1st, just simply because we limit spots for these camps. We don't take everybody because we want all of you to get individualized coaching and individualized reps, because that's what it's all about. If we have 1 million people out there, you're not going to get any better. We just don't have the time to walk through each athlete, so that's why we limit spots. So guys, if you go to that very first link in the description below of this video, that's where you can sign up. Our next camp after Austin, Texas, will be coming out to Las Vegas, Nevada, Seattle, Washington, Chicago, Illinois, then we'll be heading out to Birmingham, Alabama, Houston, Texas, Boston, Massachusetts, Columbus, Ohio, Boise, Idaho, and finishing off the tour, guys, in Los Angeles, California. So guys, want some more information, you want to sign up, like I said, very first link in that description below. So now, let's get into some stories, some current events. So the first one that I want to talk about is the draft. Last week, we talked about best quarterbacks in the draft that I thought. And so a lot of you posted in the comments asking about, hey, what are your takes on some of the best wide receivers in the draft? So there's a guy out of Arizona. I actually watched him play a high school game one time. It's like, his name's Terrio McMillan. That's why I'm looking at my notes here because I'm trying to get his name right. But we call him T-Mac. That was his name. He went to Servite High School, so the place that I went to when I was a freshman, like I mentioned earlier. And insane. Absolutely insane talent. Great hands. If you look at film, because like everybody talks about Travis Hunter, right? And we're going to talk about Travis Hunter in another episode this week. But like, if you watch his film versus Travis Hunter, who is a high-level DB, great athlete, great speed, one of the best players in the entire country, T-Mac routed him up multiple times. So everybody's the big knock on T-Mac because he's a big dude. He's probably like 6'4". Obviously, he's got great hands, great ball skills, but the knock on him is his route running. Can he run routes? I've never seen him run a route. I've never seen him run a comeback. So I think his pro day and his NFL combine is going to be important to show that he could actually run routes and get in and out of breaks. But T-Mac's up there, man. I would put him up there. And I highly recommend you check out their film versus Colorado because it'll be really eye-opening. Now, next receiver would be Luther Burden. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I just think that he's, and I'm pulling this off of an article too, where they had the top 5 ranked. So Luther Burden, I guess, he had obviously great college career, but I'm not super high on him. I'd be higher on T-Mac. But I'm telling you this right now. This is a receiver, because every year I try to at least pick a receiver in the draft that maybe isn't like 1, 2, or 3 on everybody's board that I think could be really good. And I remember one year I picked Chase Claypool, and then he went off as a rookie, and then I was dead wrong because he sucked after that. For the NFL, I sucked for the NFL. But I would say this year, then I picked Tank Dell a couple years back whenever he was coming out, and I think Tank Dell probably paid off. Dude's got some of the best routes in the NFL. But a dude that reminds me a lot of Tank Dell is Tez Johnson Jr. out of Oregon. If you watch, I highly recommend you check this out. If you just go to Twitter and just type in Tez Johnson Jr. route running or routes or something, there are going to be clips of him at the Senior Bowl. Okay, every year Reese's puts on that Senior Bowl for seniors entering the draft to kind of showcase their skills. But watch him at that Senior Bowl. Absolutely insane. One of the best route runners I have ever seen. And some of the stuff he does off the line, top of the route, it's very, very smooth. And that type of skill will translate to the NFL. Like, I'm a firm believer that you can't just get, like, unless you're like Tyreek Hill, you can't get away with just having pure speed, and you can't get away with just being a good pass catcher at the NFL, like, unless you're freaking huge, but you have to be able to run routes. Like, anybody that's watching this that wants to play high-level football, you have to be able to run routes. I can't stress how important that is because of the competition that you're going against. Like, I train a lot of like 7th and 8th grade players, and we're getting them ready for high school, right? So if a lot of them have dreams and aspirations of playing at these big high schools, like the Mater Days, the Bishop Gormans, you know, the St. John Boscos, and I tell them, guys, you need to focus on your route running because you're going to be playing against a higher caliber DB. So you need to focus on your route running. And that's the biggest focus of my training because I don't want to get you ready for a bad DB, I want to get you ready for a good DB. And Tez Johnson, his skill set translates to that next level, and he's got great speeds. He could probably put on a little bit of size, but I really think Tez Johnson is that guy. Okay? So now, next story we're getting into, you guys. So Justin Tucker. Some accusations have been made about Justin Tucker. Came out this week, I believe on Monday, about him, you know, sexual misconduct with some, like, I want to say like massage therapists, if you will. And the thing is, it's unfortunate, man. Like, if that's true, if those allegations are true, it's pretty sad just because, you know, he's one of those guys that's very, you know, like, and again, like, it's accusations. Nothing has been proven yet, but he's one of those guys that's always, you know, pro-Christian, over the top, talking about that stuff in post-game interviews, signing a cross before every kick, you know, and everybody makes mistakes. So if this is true, that's obviously a pretty serious mistake. So I guess time will tell. The one thing I will say is just like, these accusations, everybody reads the headlines, like everybody sees what the news puts out there, ESPN, Fox, CNN, all this stuff. And, you know, like, traditional media, guys, has been wrong a bunch of times, over and over and over and over again. Both sides, right? If you look at it from like a political lens, both sides have been wrong over and over again. You look at stories that ESPN will run, they've been wrong. Like, perfect example is that like Matt Ariaza guy. So he was at San Diego State, and a girl accused him of rape, and it was proven that it wasn't him, but all these news articles came out painting him to be some monster, and all these news articles have not corrected that yet. Yes, he's playing in the NFL, and he's very blessed, and he's had a lot of breaks, but these news guys just want the story. They just want the headline. And a lot of them don't even look into what is actually being said. They don't even look into the allegations. They just want the headlines because they want the clicks, because that's how they make money, right? Because the more clicks they get on the website, and here's how you know a lot of it's BS. A lot of these websites, what they'll do is they'll put up an article about it behind a paywall. So to read their article, because that's how you know, it's like, I think it's just a little, it's like if you're being a journalist and you're trying to inform people, like, I'm not the biggest fan of putting that behind a paywall. How about you just inform people if that's what it's really about, if it's not about money, right? So they'll write this article and they'll put it behind a paywall, and then it's like, well, I don't want to pay for this. I just want to know, I want my opinion on it. So you have to be careful believing everything that you read. These accusations are from his rookie year, so that was a long time ago. That was like 2012, I believe. So again, it brings the question up, why weren't these accusations made then? But again, a lot of times women are put in situations where they don't feel confident talking about this stuff. They feel like everybody's against them. They feel like they'll be called crazy. So I guess time will tell. But I think you just guys have to believe, don't believe everything that you read. Do your own research before you start passing judgment on people, because what a terrible thing if they are making it up, what a terrible thing if it actually happens. So we just have to wait and see how it goes. But that's my 2 cents for it. So now, guys, let's get into some questions. So these questions, you guys, if you want your questions featured on our next episode in the comment section of this video, if you have questions about anything football related, really anything, I'd be happy to answer them and feature them on the show if I feel like you guys could get some benefit out of it. So guys, go to the comment section, leave a question. Happy to answer all of those like I said. said. Okay, so now let's get into some of your guys' questions. So first one from Flux Cyclone. Hey coach, I'm in 7th grade going into 8th grade. Should I start trying to market myself now or when I become a freshman? So if you're talking from like marketing yourself from like a college recruiting perspective, I would say probably wait till you get to high school. Just because like the thing about college recruiting is that you're not gonna, you can't get any real recruiting attention without varsity film. So if you don't have varsity film to be able to showcase to a college coach, there's really not much for you. So if you're a 7th grader, your primary focus needs to be, did you say you're a receiver? Like, let's say you're a receiver. Your goal should be improve your hands, improve your speed, improve your route running, your press releases, and try to make varsity as soon as possible. Your goal should be when I walk in as a freshman, I'm gonna start on varsity. That should be your goal. So when you get that varsity film, then we can start talking about recruiting. Then you can start sending your film to different college coaches. Now let's say you're in a situation where maybe you won't start on varsity as a freshman. What you can do is, as a freshman, you can make an X profile, upload, graduating class of 2020, whatever. I played this position, and what you can do is upload clips of you training, whatever, and then you could contact college coaches on there where you could just be like, hey, I want to come to one of your camps. Do you guys have any camps in the summer? And then you go attend that camp. You build a relationship with that coach. So maybe your sophomore year, you get some film and you can send it to that coach. That's a lot of how the recruiting world works, guys. It's all about relationships and more about who you know, not so much like what you know and knowledge of it. So dude, if you want help, if you want to, we have a website where we have a list of over 500 different college coaches that we have their X profiles on there, and you could follow them. Anybody watching this, if you guys would like that list, just post in the comment section below and say you want the recruiting list, and I'll send you over a link to that, no problem. A good question, man. I appreciate you asking that. Appreciate you watching the videos, of course. All right, so next question here. This is from Neil CSD. That's a long question. I appreciate the long questions. I appreciate the background, you guys. So it says, Grant, love your videos. The content is superb. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Question for you. My son loves football, wants to play as long as he can. The problem he has is that his coach wants him to play a position, DB, that he doesn't enjoy as much. We all know that football is probably more than any other sport of getting where you fit in sport based on your physical attributes, but it's frustrating for both of us that he's not getting the reps in his preferred role, wide receiver. He's actually very, very good at his preferred role, better than the one he's assigned to. How should I handle this in the upcoming season, in your opinion? I've talked to the coach and he's agreed to play my kid at receiver, but wants him to go both ways and still play DB. This is for 13U Pop Warner. At 13, my answer is a little different. So at 13 years old, appreciate you asking that, Neil, too. At 13, I would say, honestly, have him play both ways. I think it will only benefit him if he's playing DB as a receiver, just simply because he's going to know how the other side lives. He's like the best receivers that I train have experience playing DB, right? So he's going to know how the other side lives. He's going to know what receivers are trying to do, what to look for on certain routes. He's going to be very well versed on the defensive side of the ball and look at things differently. Now, I know he wants to play receiver, and that's probably his favorite position, but have him play both right now. And honestly, I will say this, from a football perspective, if he goes into high school and he plays both ways, that's only going to benefit him more to a college coach. All the college coaches that I talk to, what they're looking for at the skill positions, they're looking for playmakers. Because when you get to college, especially the way college is changing, if you get recruited out of high school, they're probably recruiting you because they see a ton of potential, but they're going to develop you. It's very rare for true freshmen, unless they're absolute freaks, to start on a college level roster right away. Nowadays, because what do colleges pull from? The transfer portal. Junior colleges now you can go to a junior college for 2 years, transfer to a 4-year, and play 4 years there. That's a new rule that they made this year. So he's probably not going to play right away if he's recruited right out of high school, but they're looking for explosive playmakers who can make plays on film. So I recommend playing everything. Play receiver, play DB, play special teams, simply because the more he's on the field, the more plays he's going to be able to make. And that's what's going to help him stand out to college coaches. But again, I get the receiver thing. I totally understand. If he hates DB, you could do what I did. Because I was a quarterback, right? So I remember when I was a freshman, I was in a little bit of a quarterback competition, and there was, the other quarterback wasn't as great. He was, one of his dads, his dad was a friend of the head coach, and they kind of golfed together, they're buddies and all that stuff, but he wasn't that great. And so they tried hell to get me to play DB, and I was like, I don't want to do it. But you don't want to come off as that non-team guy, right? Where you're oh, I don't want to play, I don't want to help the team. I'm a quarterback. But I put in all this time, all this effort in the quarterback. So what I did was, I asked my quarterback coach this, and whether it was good advice or bad advice, I'm just sharing this, I think it's funny. He told me to do bad. He's like, play DB and just do bad. And so I did. And they never asked me to play DB again. Ended up playing quarterback, ended up starting. So again, like I wouldn't recommend playing bad, especially if you're a receiver, but that's just, I get it. In fact, if you run into that in high school, maybe that's an option. But Neil, appreciate you asking that. All right, now this question is from Jean Ann Moon, 7865. Hey coach, I'm trying to be a QB, but I'm 5'5", and I'm in 8th grade going to be a freshman. I want to start on varsity as a freshman. Any tips and tricks? So if you're 5'5", going into your freshman year, you're a little undersized. And hey, listen, I don't know if you've ever met me, I'm not a big dude. So I get it, I understand. When I was a freshman, I was probably close to your height. I was probably like 5'7", I would say, maybe as a freshman, and I didn't really grow that much. Like I ended up being like 5'9". I lied to everybody, said 5'11". Just because, if I got cleats on, maybe I am. But anyways, like I get the short quarterback thing, and it's a tough road. It's a tough shtick, but it is possible, I will say. If you're trying to start on varsity as a freshman, there's a couple things that you have to do. One, you gotta have pretty good athleticism. Like if you're a short QB, you gotta be able to do zone read. You gotta be able to get out of the pocket. You gotta be able to throw on the run. Just because like you're not gonna be able to see back there. You're not a pocket passer if you're 5'5". So you gotta be able to work on your speed a little bit. And then those other attributes I just mentioned, throwing on the run, pocket movement, everything that you do when you train should be centered around that. You should be doing speed training 2 to 3 times a week. At your quarterback training workouts that you do maybe 4 times a week. You should be working a lot of throws where, like if you're running with receivers and let's say he's running a 10-yard in, you don't want to just drop back and throw to the 10-yard in. You want to drop back, move a little bit, throw the 10-yard in. Run up in the pocket, throw. Because those are the types of throws you're going to have to make simply because your height is restricted. And then last but not least, quick release. So I would spend a lot of time on your throwing mechanics, getting your front foot down faster, getting the ball out of your hand quick, popping your feet to certain throws, because if you get the ball out of your hands, the vision thing isn't going to be a problem. As quarterbacks in general, like if you're 6'1", you're deemed tall enough to play quarterback. But your offensive line is going to be 6'4", 6'5". You can't see anyways. So you play through windows between the line, between the tackle and the guard, between the guard and the center. You play through those windows. So you getting the ball out quick and playing that window game is probably the best thing that you can do. Okay? So I hope that helps, man. Appreciate you asking that. I always like helping out the short guys because I'm one of them, so I appreciate you asking that. So all right, fellas, guys, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys got some value, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right.